Hey everyone,
I'm Steph,
I'm Michael
and today we're checking out Wabash Cannonball.
from Rio Grande Games.
Yeah.
This game plays 3 to 6 players and has a box play time of 30 to 60 minutes. Now, because this plays 3 to 6 players, clearly we can't play it with 2 players on stream, but I can teach you how to play it. So, thanks to Rio Grande Games for providing us this copy of Wabash Cannonball, but they didn't give it to us in exchange for this video. They gave it to us because they know we like to play all the games. Let's go ahead and take a look while I teach you all the rules.
And just a quick note that if you have or have heard of Chicago Express,
Oh, yeah.
it is the same game. It's under the same category and game page on BGG. So if you're looking to learn that one, well, this is a good opportunity to learn the game.
That's right. So, little trivia, we had a theme park in Nashville called Opryland.
Yeah.
That got bulldozed for a shopping mall.
Oh, sad.
Which is really, really sad.
Yeah.
And they had a coaster that I love to ride called the Wabash Cannonball.
Oh.
So
basically after this train.
yes, after it was absolutely named after this train. So, to set up, you need to select one person to be the banker and give each player the starting money, which is $120 divided by the number of players. So, however that divides up with your group. You're going to put the corresponding cubes for New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington. We put one cube from each of these railroads into those 4 cities. That's where these railroads are going to start. You're also going to put the starting stock price for each of those stocks. You've got yellow on the 5, blue on the 6, red on the 7, green on the 8, as you can see over here. You're going to also need the 6 tan cubes, one on each of the start spaces on the industrial city income track, and one on the start spaces of each of the 3 decision tracks. All of the purple development cubes should just be put next to the unused development cubes box on the game board, as you see up here. So all of those purple cubes should go up there. All of the cubes and the stock for each of the railroads should be placed next to those locations on the board. Now I've got a ton of cubes down here that I just have not sorted out, but imagine if there were more cubes. So, first we're going to do the initial auctions. 1 share of Pennsylvania is going to be put up for auction, and the banker will start the bidding, whoever was chosen to be the banker. The minimum bid is the railroad's current dividend. Actually, this isn't the stock price. It is the dividend price, which is 7. But that's what the initial bid will be. If you pass, we're going to go clockwise. If you pass, you may not re-enter the bidding. If no one bids on this stock, then whoever offered it, the banker in this case, gets it for free. Don't let the banker do that. The money that you pay for the stock is put in Pennsylvania Railroad's treasury right next to the game board, because the money that Pennsylvania gets for selling its stock will be used to build the track for Pennsylvania. So it's not bad to actually give each of these money. It is important to note there are different numbers of these stocks. There are 5 New York stocks, 6 C&O, 4 B&O, 3 Pennsylvania, and there are 2 Wabash. So notice we did not put anything out for Wabash. That is intentional. So we finished up Pennsylvania's initial auction. Next, 1 share of B&O is going to be put up. The player who purchased the Pennsylvania stock will start the bidding. The minimum bid is, again, the current dividend. Going to keep doing that the same as we did for Pennsylvania. Then we're going to do C&O. Finally, New York. Play will begin with whoever purchased the Pennsylvania share and will continue clockwise. The game will go until a general dividend happens And after that general dividend, if one of four conditions are met, three or more railroads have built all their track, three or more railroads have sold all of their stock, three or fewer purple development cubes are available, or Detroit, this first line, is fully developed, Detroit being up here. So if any one of those four happens, after a general dividend is paid, the game is over. Most money wins. Ties are possible. So during your turn, you have to make an available decision and slide the tan cube the next box to the right. We have capitalization, development, and expansion. After we complete the decision, we might have some events occur. Maybe a Chicago dividend happens. Maybe the Wabash will open. Maybe we have general dividends, or maybe, obviously, as I mentioned before, the end of the game could trigger. So, if when you're making your choice of one of these decisions, if the tan cube is on the end space, you cannot do it. So, um, after you make the decision and implement it, then the decision tracks are checked. If two out of three of these decisions are on end, general dividends are then paid. So let's talk about these three decision tracks. Let's start with the longest one, expansion. That allows you to have a railroad build track. So um, the each railroad has a certain number of track cubes, and as you can see, if we do something like this, then um, B&O purchased, has built this track. So um, the track must always connect back to the railroad starting city. You can't just start out here and hope that it will connect back someday. You have to start from this city. Now, you can go out two different directions. Nothing says that you have to place all of these cubes adjacent to one another, but everything must be paid from the railroad treasury. A railroad can build up to three tracks using an expansion. And here's the catch, you have to own a share before you are allowed to make decisions for that railroad. That makes sense. Only shareholders can guide that company.
Makes sense.
So, and obviously the player making the decision gets to decide where those three tracks or fewer are placed. So, what are the costs for each of these? Well, if there is a number in the hex, that's how much the cost is. Or in the case of the cities, then the first railroad to build a hex there will pay. Um, the first of the three numbers is how much it costs to build into a city. If another railroad is in the hex, building track there either costs more or is forbidden. So for cities, let's say red is the first one there and pays 2. The second railroad coming into that city will pay double the cost. The third, triple. The fourth, 4 times. And the fifth will pay 5 times the cost. So, um, industrial cities, which are uh, Pittsburgh, Wheeling, and Detroit, and the farm hexes, which are the yellow hexes, can have multiple railroads in that hex. And the same pricing will hold true for that. Uh, First one to go into Pittsburgh is 4, second one 8, third 12, etc. Timber spaces, which are the green forest spaces, and mine hexes, which are these blue hexes, may have only one railroad in that hex, and the build cost is the number that you see in the hex. Finally, these 4 cities are start cities. Each railroad has track in its start city, and you may not build to another start city. So, when a railroad builds a track into a hex, the railroad might get income from that hex. Any additional income that is received from that hex is added right into the railroad's income on the railroad income track. So, if New York City, uh, the New York Central, sorry, builds into Albany, and Albany was undeveloped. Where is Albany? Way up there. And Albany was undeveloped, which development deals with these numbers up top. Then New York income would be increased by 1. That is the second number shown in the hex. For Buffalo, it's 3. For most of these places, it's 1 or 2. Way over here, Chicago, it's a 7. The third number is developed income, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So, farm or timber gives you nothing to the income. A mine gives you 1 to the income. An undeveloped city adds the amount shown by the second of the 3 numbers, as we talked about. The developed city is the third number, and an industrial city, the Pittsburgh, Wheeling, and Detroit, adds its current income to the railroad's income. Its current income is shown on the industrial city income track. So, Detroit is one to build in, but however much you add is based on how developed it is. When a railroad builds into Chicago, that's a special city. That railroad will pay what's called a Chicago dividend to the shareholders of that railroad. We'll talk about that here in a second. If you're the first railroad to build into Chicago, then after Chicago dividends are paid, the Wabash Railroad will immediately open. We'll also talk about that in a second. Let's talk about the development decision. That lets you development lets you commercially develop 1 hex. A hex can be developed only if a railroad has built track into that hex. Although Detroit is going to automatically develop when general dividends are paid, even if there are no railroads there. We'll talk about that, like I say, in a bit. So, developing a hex is going to bring money into the railroad's treasury or will increase the income from the hex. So, you cannot develop farms. So, when you develop timbers, mine, or cities, so any of the green or blue or any of the cities, you are going to place one of the purple cubes onto that hex, and you can only develop each hex once. When you develop an industrial city, you slide the tan cube. If it's already in the rightmost box, you can't go any farther. If you develop that industrial city, it is going to increase its income. So if you increase Wheeling from 3 to 4, then whoever is in Wheeling, they had already had their railroad incomes up by 3, they will increase by 1 more. Because if Wheeling increases 1, those railroads in Wheeling will also increase 1. So you're not losing anything by going into Wheeling early. You're going to get whatever development happens. Developing a timber hex will immediately pay $2 from the bank into the railroad's treasury. It does not get any income. It goes directly into treasury. And that's one good way of getting more money into a railroad's treasury without buying the stock. So, developing a mine will increase the income by 2, which is up there. Developing a city hex will increase its income, as we mentioned. Like if you were built into Cleveland, the income would have been 2. When you develop Cleveland, it will go up by 2 more for a total of 4. Again, you're just doing the difference in between. When a second or third railroad comes in there, if it's already developed, it's going to get the full 4. Again, you're not losing out by going in first and taking the lower number. it's going to eventually be the higher number when you develop it. Um, and the four start cities may not be developed. Farms may not be developed. Chicago is already at the 7. It may not be developed. Detroit is automatically developed when a general dividend is paid. Let's talk about the capitalization decision. That is pretty simple. Railroads are capitalized because you sell stock. So if you choose this decision, you get to select one of the unsold shares of railroad, including Wabash, if Wabash is available. Um, the minimum bid, again, is the current dividend, as if it was already sold, rounded up. So um, if the New York City income were 23, the minimum bid would be 8. We haven't talked about what the dividend is yet, but I'll get to that momentarily. We're gonna continue the bid clockwise, and you're gonna put the money in the treasury just like we did with the initial bid. So let's talk about the Chicago dividends or general dividends. So um, remember, if 2 of these 3 are unavailable, we're going to have a general dividend. That general dividend that is going to be paid is for whatever the income is divided by the number of shares of railroad stocks that are out and about. So um, you're going to round up. So if you have 1.01, that rounds up to 2. So if let's see here. If we were at 14, and 3 of us had shares, each of us would get 5. So, um, after the general dividends are paid, you're going to reset the tan cubes all of them back to the start. You will increase the city income for Detroit by 1, which basically this is your countdown timer. If the Detroit income was already 8, then the game is over. So the Chicago dividend is a special dividend paid only to shareholders of that railroad. The dividend paid for each share of railroad stock is the income as shown on the income track divided by the number of shares, round down for the Chicago dividend. So 1.99 is 1, not 2. Immediately after the first railroad is built into Chicago and pays out the Chicago dividends, we're going to open the Wabash Railroad, place a black cube into Fort Wayne, um, and $1 if Fort Wayne is not developed, and $3 if Fort Wayne is developed. The current player is the first player to get to bid for the Wabash share of stock, so that one of these shares is automatically put up for bids. So any money raised for Wabash goes to Wabash. Simple as that. Now, the one thing I didn't show you is that all of the money is paper money. Be sure to upgrade to whatever replacements that you want, unless you are nostalgic and don't mind the paper money for a rail game such as this. I know a lot of rail games do use paper money, and sometimes people may be used to it.
True.
That is pretty much all the rules. Whoever, well, let me say here, whoever has the most money will win the game. Basically, just trying to get a whole bunch of money from racking up those dividends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say I speak the language of train games. So
You did play it, though.
I did, and a lot of it is kind of over your head, but once you kind of get into it, it's not so bad. So
it flows fairly easily.
I would say that this is probably one of the easier train games if you're looking to like get into like a train game to like kind of understand the mechanics of dividends and shares and things that are very scary.
So shares are scary to Steph.
No, I can understand them, and I
do.
And I can play. I'm just saying, for those who might be intimidated by a map like this, it's not that bad.
It's not that overwhelming. A lot of people will sometimes make fun of the people who go to conventions and play train games. But there's
Not a lot.
there's
I make fun of a lot of train gamers out there.
but no, it's really there is an ebb and flow to how the stock prices work with you know, a little bit of give and take as to whether you need to invest in more of a stock. At the end of the game, starting to run out of cubes and or starting to run out of money in the treasury, it's a fine balance that has to be sort of carefully maintained. So if
Yeah.
I know I need more money in B&O, I might want to spend more of my money to buy another share, but hopefully I can make it worth my
And
while.
hopefully you get another turn to make it work. So
Exactly.
giving up your money.
That's right. And you've got a stock, but
Uh,
the stock is supposed to be the vehicle to get you more money.
That's right.
So, anyway, that is Wabash Cannonball, or otherwise known as Chicago Express.
Yeah. I know that Chicago Express is on BGA for those who do want to try it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So, if you enjoyed this teach and you want to see more teaches like this, or if you enjoy seeing playthroughs of games, hey, we do that on your channel, right? YouTube / BoardGamerSteph. Or you can join us on twitch.tv / BoardGamerSteph, where we stream live on Twitch every Wednesday and Sunday night at 5 p.m. Central, and we will stream 3 games or more every single stream. So come join us on Twitch, where we play all the games. Woo woo!
And for those on Twitch, we'll be right back.
Chugga, 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 chugga.